Welcome to Verified RX, your prescription for success. Brought to you by the Vizient Center for Pharmacy Practice Excellence.
The Pharmacy Vision Awards at Vizient celebrate values and achievements of our program participants. The Executive Leadership Award is granted to an individual who provides strategic insight, advances leading clinical practices, and demonstrates business acumen for their entire organization. Our 2023 winner is Dr. Curtis Haas, Chief Pharmacy Officer at the University of Rochester Medical Center. He's here today to share his perspective on pharmacy leadership. I'm Gretchen Brummel, Pharmacy Executive Director with the Vizient Center for Pharmacy Practice Excellence, and your program host. Welcome to the podcast and congratulations on this award.
Thank you.
Tell me about your background and your organization.
Sure. Early in my career, about 2 decades actually, I primarily spent in clinical practice and clinical research activities, and that was primarily focused around adult critical care. I also spent some time in academia in a tenure track faculty position. And after nearly 25 years into my professional career, I made a shift towards executive leadership in pharmacy, which was a pretty significant change for me to go from being a faculty member with a few direct reports in my lab to leading an entire department within a health system. But it's been a good move. Speaking of the organization, UR Medicine is an 8-hospital system in the Finger Lakes regions of New York State. And Strong Memorial Hospital is our largest flagship academic medical center, which is about a 900-bed regional referral center here in Rochester, New York. As you would expect, we have comprehensive pharmacy services that touch on essentially all aspects of acute and ambulatory care, both operationally and clinically. We have roughly 800 FTEs across the department, and we really cover from the ICUs to home care, like many systems, and I see that continuing to grow rapidly as we take on greater risk through value-based contracting.
I appreciate that background and description of your organization. You mentioned coming from that clinician/academician background. How has that contributed to your success now as a chief pharmacy officer?
Andy Donnelly, who's at the University of Illinois Hospital, and myself published a commentary or an editorial on this very topic 2 years ago in JACCP. We were reflecting on why it's important for pharmacy leadership to come from our clinical ranks. And I can just share a short excerpt from that commentary, which I think does a good job of summarizing why I think this is important. We wrote, although maybe not realizing it, in addition to developing sophisticated therapeutic knowledge in their areas of specialty, clinical pharmacists learn many other valuable skills that carry over nicely to formal leadership positions. They learn how to think critically and objectively, how to make important decisions under the pressures of consequence and time, and how to manage effectively in interdisciplinary team environments. They become effective communicators with crucial conversation skills and become very good problem solvers. They learn the importance of compassion and empathy in daily decision making. They learn how to teach, both didactic and point of care. They learn how to formulate a cogent, evidence-based, and defensible argument. They learn how to assess real value and, importantly, how to measure success. They become experienced clinical pharmacists molded and forged by years of observation, growth, participation, learning, failures, and successes. Intended or not, they begin to be seen as healthcare leaders, both within and outside of pharmacy. They also begin to realize that they are effective leaders and that by taking on greater and greater leadership roles, they can have more impact on patients and on the success of their departments and organizations. We went on in that editorial just to say that leading a health system department of pharmacy from the perspective of an experienced and successful clinical pharmacist who has spent many years developing meaningful interdisciplinary relationships is a tremendous strength that leads to opportunities for inclusive and collaborative teamwork across the clinical leadership of the enterprise. Pharmacy clinician leaders also engender a level of respect from both within and outside of the pharmacy department due to their patient care experience and ability to speak the language of clinicians. There is a lot of learning and strength that comes from being strong clinically, and nobody becomes the chair of a department of medicine unless they're a very good physician first, and nobody becomes a chief surgeon unless they're a very talented surgeon. We believe that pharmacy is a patient-oriented profession. We want our best clinicians to grow into our best leaders.
Curtis, that's really compelling commentary, and I'm in 100% agreement with you coming from a clinical background as well. We will make sure to link to that editorial in our show notes so that our listeners can access that document and read the full editorial at their leisure. You are known for elevating pharmacy practice on a state and national basis. Tell me why this is important to you, and how do you work it in with everything else that you have pulling for your attention?
Oh, thank you. That was a nice compliment. When I was a graduate student in the 1980s, one of my professors, Dr. Gerhard Levy, who was an icon in Buffalo, told us that clinical pharmacy is a very new discipline and that every one of us has an obligation to contribute what we can to the success of that discipline. That always made a lot of sense to me, and I really kind of took it to heart that we all can do our own little part to make sure that pharmacy, in particular clinical pharmacy, would continue to advance. I've also found that any contribution I make to local and national organizations or other advocacy type efforts pay back several times over in my overall professional life due to the networking and the relationships that you develop, the learning that occurs because of those activities that just make you better at your own organization. So in the process of trying to promote the profession, I've also learned that I gain at home to help me be better at what I do every day, and for my organization to benefit from what I've learned. It does take extra effort to do things outside of your home environment, but I've always thought the paybacks are huge compared to the effort that goes in. And one thing leads to another. You just keep contributing, hopefully a little bit each time, and everybody wins, in my perspective.
Well, we're very fortunate that you've taken this approach across your career, and I think it's a big part of why you've been chosen for this award, so thank you for that. Your team describes you as someone who sets everyone up for success by providing resources and support and encouraging innovation. How do you do so, and what have been the results you've seen for placing priority on this?
Well, I've always been a strong believer in the servant leadership principles. And that is, I see my job as primarily to help others be as successful as they can be. And their success is the source of my own success. And more importantly, the success of the department and the organization that I work for. I've never been a big fan of micromanaging. Frankly, I'm not that good at it. Also, I believe that if there's a need to micromanage a team, it's really a sign that you have the wrong people on the team. I'm not a detail person. Everybody that knows me knows that. I therefore need to surround myself with capable people that can work independently and are good at focusing on all those details that I'm not particularly good at focusing on. For those individuals to be successful, they need support. They need help. They need barriers moved, whatever I can do to help. The other thing I think has been very important for us as an organization, as a department, is we always manage to a strategic plan that we refresh at regular intervals. You know, the old saying that if you don't know where you're going, any road will get you there is obviously something we try to avoid. So we always have multiple years of strategic objectives laid out and specific timelines that we're pursuing. Yes, things change, like pandemics are very disruptive, we've learned, but we always try to stay focused on those goals and continue to work towards them. That has allowed us to remain very innovative, always focused forward, not backwards. And it's just allowed us to manage to the plan very effectively.
Well, having interviewed a couple folks from your organization for the Pharmacy Vision Awards, I can attest to your approach of servant leadership. We'll link to their episode in the show notes as well. They embodied that value as well. So thank you for that. What have you been doing lately at the University of Rochester Medical Center that you're proud of or would like to highlight for our listeners?
Over the past several years, we've really been increasing our focus on integration and consolidation of pharmacy services. And this covers a lot of areas, everything from pharmacy IT to sterile compounding to our central fill operations to our ambulatory pharmacy management, clinic replenishment through our consolidated services center, really organizing our CMM or comprehensive medication management program in the ambulatory setting. We have clinical pharmacists that are employed by multiple different institutions, but really we have one accountable care structure for value-based contracting. So we've organized all of those clinical resources under single leadership within that accountable care structure. And that's led to a lot of success in delivering a consistent product by our ambulatory-based clinical pharmacists. Our 340B management program, our supply chain and sourcing, our financial management team, we're moving further into centralizing orders management. All of this consolidation and integration is really intended to steadily move towards what I refer to as a one department model, that we have one way of doing things, one way of providing high quality care across the system. So no matter where you might be admitted or where you might be receiving ambulatory care across our system, you should be seeing similar quality of pharmacy care. That's our goal. And whether it's a small community hospital 2 hours from Rochester or it's in a large academic medical center, we want to provide a consistent level of care. Our second major initiative that I'm very proud of how much success we've made to date, but a lot more work to do, I call it the Digital Pharmacy Initiative. Basically, we are working hard with our patient care teams and others so that we treat pharmacy care like any other referral that we want to keep within our system. We know we can take better care of patients. We know that we're increasingly accountable for quality and drug-related outcomes. Why would we want to rely on others to provide this care? I often say it's our patients, our providers, and our data. So who is better positioned to provide integrated team-based care than ourselves? We are not going to build brick and mortar pharmacies throughout the community. To me, that's building the past, not building the future. But we know and we are delivering direct-to-patient pharmacy services very effectively. And we're finding that patients really like this. And it's much more convenient, it's much more patient-centered, and much more accessible to patients going through our call centers or video visits, et cetera. I believe that this is an imperative for health systems that take on risk related to the outcome of chronic diseases. We know that 75 to 80% of what we do for chronic diseases is drug therapy. Yet we relegate that pharmacy care often outside of our system. That doesn't make good sense to me. So we're talking about accountable pharmacy care and what that looks like and how we can deliver it to the patients of our system. And so that project is a very high strategic priority, and we are actively pursuing that at this time.
Well, and I can see how really partnering those two concepts together can set you up for success. The one department model, allowing for standardization of pharmacy practice across your entire organization, and the digital pharmacy concept of our patients, our providers, and our data, pulling those two together is really foundational for your success moving forward. So thank you for sharing that. You've done volunteer work outside of your system with organizations such as the American College of Clinical Pharmacy, or ACCP, Get the Medications Right Initiative, or GTMRX, and Pharmacy Times. Tell me about that work and how it advances pharmaceutical care.
Working with outside organizations, including Vizient, helps us to promote our agenda in pharmacy. We need to generate as much recognition for the great work that pharmacists and pharmacy programs are doing. We can't do that by just staying home. We need to work with our organizations. They also help us advocate for formal recognition of the value of pharmacy care through things like payment structures, regulatory frameworks, and positioning within large health systems. The recognition that pharmacy needs to be at the executive level in health systems has really been benefited by a number of organizations promoting that idea. We have to do everything we can to provide objective evidence relative to the benefits of pharmacy across multiple value streams. And these value streams include revenue and margin, clinical quality, improved outcomes, reduced resource utilization, patient and care team satisfaction, and others. All of these are important value streams, and we can make a difference in each of them. Now we have to prove it. And I think the future direction of the profession is tied to these value streams and our ability to influence them. And working together through many different organizational structures is important to move this forward. Anytime I put some of my time into an organizational activity, I get so much more back, either personally or as an organization. Working with organizations is very important to demonstrate our value. It's paid off in dividends, certainly for me.
Keeping with that theme of making the time and just really seeing the value come back for that work. Well, thank you, Curtis, so much for your expertise and insights. It's been an absolute pleasure having you on the podcast today.
Oh, and thank you for inviting me. Very much enjoyed it.
And listeners, please join us for more Verified RX podcasts. Subscribe today, like us, and send us your comments. We'd love to hear from you. Verified RX is your prescription for success and is brought to you by the Vizient Center for Pharmacy Practice Excellence. I'm Gretchen Brummel. Thanks for listening.